Hello, hello. This is the Chicas Plus Equals podcast, a place where two chicas from Eastern Europe navigate real life. We're talking health, habits, mindset, relationships, and everything in between. Join the girl talk.
And we are back. Hi, Jovana.
Hello.
You were just making fun of my British accent because I've had to prepare for interviews recently, and I, non-intentionally, I was playing around. As everybody knows, I'm in the process of applying for jobs and not being an unemployed student, and it's been an interesting journey. I've had like for a few weeks, I've only been applying. I've been applying to stuff, and then you have to do tests over tests and pass. I think there were 3 recruitment processes until I had some sort of interview. So this week it was like the third stage. I had some interviews, not for that many opportunities, but 2 that I really liked. So that was good. However, I've been noticing that once since I got the interviews, I've been very lazy. I was like, okay, I've got the interviews. I've got this. It's in the bag. I don't know if it's going to be in the bag, but but I was just feeling very. I dropped the ball for a second, and I think I'm not sure if that's good or bad. To be honest, it felt good because after a period of being so focused, you want to relax. But I don't often know how to relax. And I mean, not necessarily I don't know. I do know, but it takes me a while to come to grips with it's okay that your day looks relaxed and is full of hobbies and is full of things you enjoy doing. It doesn't always have to be stressing about goals and achievement. And what a better segue than, today's episode is going to be about productivity. So,
Yeah,
um,
but especially in this part of the year, this season, I think this is
yeah.
equals coziness and hobbies and slowness.
To be honest, that's such a good point because the weather here is so grim. Like it's not grim, but it's just that it's very cozy. It's very gloomy. And without the gym, I don't think I'll had I don't know. It's a good time. I've been reading a new book. I've been playing the piano. I've been just like chilling and watching some very esoteric British sitcoms, which it's a very acquired. It's an acquired taste. It's a particular genre.
Oh.
They're very old, it's like 2007 sitcoms. It's just so cozy.
And what are you reading?
Oh, I'm reading something by Henry James, like a classic. It's the sort of book you'd read if you studied English literature at uni.
Uh-huh.
It's not new. But how are you enjoying the cozy season?
Reading and honestly lots of YouTube. Lots of YouTube, and I do have this again challenge for myself. If you heard of the greatest lock-in of 2025, which is basically the same thing as Winter Arc that was last year, is just
What?
new name for it.
The greatest lock-in. Oh my god, girl.
Not the
Yes.
greatest, the great lock-in. Maybe I said it wrong. The great lock-in of 2025.
It doesn't sound any less great, don't worry.
Yeah, and the whole goal for it is to not stop working on your goals and your intentions that you set for yourself for this year. And doesn't have to be necessarily goals. It can be also whatever, if it's important for you to get back into the fitness, or if you want just to, I don't know, for example, read more or write more or do some research more about that, or like, I don't know, if you're in some kind of educational course and to focus more on that, not to let this time of season stop you and like slow you. But this is not to say that, oh, grind every day, work hard, only constantly. It's just don't stop completely. So this has been my focus, and I have some things that I'm following on a daily basis, like a habit tracker that I'm following on a daily basis, and things that I'm focusing on, and mostly are related to fitness and being out on a walk, especially because I have puppies, so it's kind of mandatory, which is good.
Mhm.
And yeah, going to the gym, running, volleyball, all the fun stuff.
Sounds really interesting. For anybody who doesn't know, me, myself included, what is the winter arc? I've never heard of that.
Winter arc is this self improvement trend. that was very popular on TikTok. And even now, people also refer to Great Login of 2025 as winter arc. It's basically when you period of time these last 3 months, October, November, December, where but it doesn't have to be like you can start in November or December, and it doesn't have to end in January, of course. But it's just, a period of time where you commit to a discipline, commit to a goal setting, commit to your resolutions that you had maybe at the beginning of the year. It's just time to focus on personal growth, whatever this feels for you: mental wellness, health, fitness.
Oh, very interesting. I'm going to kind of flip the script a little bit. Start with this with another question than the one we prepared, which is how do you feel about the current productivity trends in the self-improvement community? I find it very interesting as somebody who's not actively engaged in it. I must say since 2023, since the era of, I don't know, Atomic Habits and all the
Yeah.
new YouTubers that were doing self-improvement content like Nathaniel Drew and all those guys. I have not been keeping up with the self-improvement community. Reason why I've never heard of the Great Lock-In and Winter Arc. To be honest, whenever I find them, I can't help but find them a little bit. I mean, they're nice. I just don't
Mhm.
resonate with them. As somebody who has been a very high achiever intensely for a long time, actually, I'll say it frankly, as somebody who is a recovering high achiever, the Great Arc, the Great Lock In, Winter Arc, I find them, they don't resonate with me anymore. Maybe I was burnt out. Maybe I am burnt out. Reason why
Mhm.
they don't really catch on me. Or maybe I've had this phase before, which we're going to, we'll tell them about it after this question. But how do you feel about the current state of the productivity trends community?
Well, regarding these, I like it because it's not like, for example, like 75 hard, where you have those five rules and it's the same for everyone. If you want to do 75 hard original one, you have specific five rules that you're following. But for this, it's very much personalized. Like you can do for your winter arc whatever you want. If you want, for example, you're focusing on interviews, and if you want to be like, okay, I'm gonna grind now and like focus on interviewing, applying for jobs, researching about companies, I'm gonna do that. That's gonna be my focus. That can be something, you can do. And it's very much different for everyone. Usually it is around fitness
Mm.
and productivity, whatever that means to each of their own person. But
Mm.
I like it because it's not a specific thing.
Uh-huh. Okay, right. I'm going to go into the questions because I feel like there's so much there and these things are going to inevitably come up during the
Yeah.
episode. And I don't want to make you go into a rabbit hole of giving me
Mhm.
all the details, but I'm very curious. So let's go straight into it. So, first things off, shall we talk a little bit about our humble beginnings with productivity? And by humble, I don't really mean humble because we've always been very
Yeah.
type A. We've been very type A people forever. I mean, the context in which we met was in a volunteering abroad thing for self development. So I think that speaks for itself. But if you were to kind of tell me what inspired you, how it started, would you like to talk a little bit about that?
What I remember how it started is by watching Lily Singh on YouTube, and I found her when I was in high school by watching her daily vlogs. Back then, she was vlogging daily, and she would vlog about her achievements and not her like how hard she worked to achieve the goals that she had. And she doesn't sugarcoat things.
Mm-hmm.
Like she was very raw. That's the
Mm-hmm.
word. She was very raw with everything she was doing. Like she would pull all nighter, or like she would work for maybe 10, 12 hours. She admits that it's not the healthiest thing to do, but she had these periods where she would really work very, very hard. And I always like that because it's not just write it, manifest it, and it will come to you. And it wasn't at all like that. I love that she not only talked about it, but she showed it through her vlogs. And I saw, at least from vlogs that I've seen, how hard she was working in wanting to achieve these goals. And that was very inspiring to me to watch. So I think that's how I started being a little bit more organized and paying attention on, like, creating my to-do list, whatever that was in high school. Oh my god, I even found, oh my god, this goes way back. I found an old diary from when I was in elementary school, and my to-do list, I kid you not, my
You had
to-do list.
you had a to-do list in elementary school?
Yes.
Oh my
And
god.
my to-do list in elementary school was number one when I come back from school. Number one, watch SpongeBob SquarePants. Number two, I kid you not, number two, I think it was buy bread. And number three, it was something to rewrite from the school into my, I don't know, for homework to do.
Okay, I think
Yes.
nobody's going to be able to stand up to that because if you started, you were a productivity queen when you were in primary school and you had watch SpongeBob as your an element on your
Yes.
to-do list. I love that. That is incredible. Who kind of infused in you this, I would call it work ethic and desire to be organized and write to-do lists?
Well, I don't remember when I was that young if I was looking because I don't think my parents were in that way organized. But from the moment I consciously remember about this is by watching Lily. Even though
Oh,
that was online, it was still I would watch it daily, and I was so curious and so interested and very much into it. But
yeah.
before that, I don't remember if there was anyone. Do you remember for yourself?
No, not really. I feel like all of these productivity journeys, or when people decide to become more productive or level up, it's often because of problem they're trying to fix in their life or something that's big that requires their attention, a big desire, a big dream, a motivation. For me, that's how it was. And it started around the time I got into high school, I think between middle school and high school. And I think I was very much prompted by a difficult period in my life during middle school. I've always been like doing my work and stuff like that, never really intentional about it until high school. And I think one part of it could have been because I just entered into a very demanding high school and I was very scared that I was going to maybe fall behind or stuff like that. But to be honest, the biggest reason why I got into this is because I really needed a sense of meaning and agency in my life. I was someone that struggled with depression, mental health for majority of my life, and when I was in middle school, I think that's when it kind of started to impact my life. And I remember, I think this was of a period of maybe a year or months where I was just very unsatisfied with my lifestyle, and I knew I could do more. I wanted to be more. I didn't want to be maybe held captive by fears or by self-esteem issues. I just knew I wanted to be more because it gave me a sense of meaning and it gave me something to look forward to. So this whole productivity thing became like a game. And you could say it was partly influenced by being in a very demanding high school where everybody was competitive and trying to keep up. And that was the game that I had to play. But it was also, on the other hand, motivated internally because I wanted to play the game. I wanted to enjoy the process and I just wanted to be part of something bigger than myself. And I think that particular scenario was the way in which I tackled it. Yeah, I think that's how why it started for me. If I were to, for example, go into what I started doing in order to practice that, it would be, for example, I the first thing I started doing was meditation because I couldn't focus for the life of me. I was so ADHD. I would start like solving a problem for my homework, and then 50 minutes later or 15 minutes later, I would hyperfixate on a sketch and I'll start drawing for an hour straight. Just get very, very distracted. Yeah, and I caught myself doing that. And I was like, okay, that's not good. That's an issue. So yeah, that's
How
kind
did you notice that in such a young age to realize that it's an issue? If you
of.
were in elementary school.
Yeah, I think it's a little crazy how sometimes as kids we notice things and we
Mm.
come to these realizations. For example, the way we realize you have to make a to-do list for after school. I realized that I need to focus.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
So, okay, I want to let you talk about what you started implementing first before I go into a whole long story that I usually tend to do. So, what did you first implement when you kind of decided to start being productive? Was it just trying things out? What were your favorite? Let's start with the favorite tools you used. So, any maybe technology?
Back then, I think it was only a piece of paper and that's it. I would just write. And to be honest, I have never switched to digital in order to organize my days
You've
and
never
my tasks.
you've never had a Google Calendar phase?
and no, it confused me. It confused me. I There were some occasions where, for example, if I had a flight, or if there was some meeting that was connected to Google, like from Zoom, that was connected to Google Calendar, and it confused me. I don't know. I never, like, that time blocking in Google Calendar that people are using. I never did that. I don't know. I never, probably
Okay.
never gave it a chance. I love me some piece of paper, some good, nice notebook, some moment to do my own doodles and design it. Like bullet journals. I would have some
Mhm.
design for that page, and then I would create for the whole month. And it was fun. It was so fun. And then in one moment during the year, it would be too much to do that, because I would think of it in the last few days, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't have time. I have to hurry up. And then it would be less and less aesthetic. It's just to have basic things. Still to this day, I'm still a paper girly. And you?
Okay, okay, girly. Well, you use that word so much, and it's so funny.
Yeah.
It You can be a paper journal girly. I remember when you used to do your plans of the week. They would always be so aesthetic, and I would be so. It would put me to shame as somebody who has never, never put in the effort to do that. I am, sadly, I must admit, I'm not an aesthetic journal girly. I'm just writing down what I need to write down on this piece of paper. And over time, I did develop a strategy for doing that. There is this one guy that I cannot remember the name for the life of me, this Canadian productivity guy, this guy from Harvard. And he basically used this technique for planning his day, which it was the main way in which I use like a planning journal. I'm the type that would have different journal for different things. So I would have
Mm.
three journals any one time. One would be for planning my to-do lists, like an entire one just for to-do lists. One would be for journaling, reflections, meditations, and another one would be for business. So by business I mean any projects I'm working on, any extracurriculars, anything I had to plan. And I've had that since high school. The time where I got to be really, really busy with extracurriculars, I implemented that. So whenever I would plan my day, I would use a journal. I do use other technologies, but when it comes to planning, like you, I found Google Calendars and Notion very easy to kind of fall into the trap of out of sight, out of mind.
Oh, I tried Notion and it didn't work out. I wanted
Oh,
it to work out, but it didn't.
sadly. Oh, I'm so sorry. To be honest, it's like I know the feeling because Notion is such a nice app.
I
It's
know.
just whenever it's online, you have to go through so many more steps to actually reach it. Whereas if it's on my desk, I open it and I write.
Do you use it daily?
Yes. So I wouldn't be the type of person that would do a weekly plan. I would sometimes do a weekly plan when I was super busy. So that was part of it. But the way in which I primarily use a journal for to-do lists is using that technique from that Harvard guy. So what you do is you write like a line through the middle of the page, and on the left side I would write to-dos. I don't like to do, so I'd use the word objectives. I don't know why. I have a thing for, I don't know why. I just feel like to do's is like people are telling me what to do, and I don't like that. So I don't tell myself what to do. I just set objectives. And then I would write down everything that comes to mind. So just brain dump everything that I want to get down in that day. Sometimes,
Mhm.
granted, I write down too many things, which is a trap we can fall into. But I write my stuff on there. And then on the right hand side, I would write the hours of the day. So at that time, I used to wake up at 6, maybe earlier. So I don't know, I started at 6 and say from every hour, I'll just write down what I'm doing and kind of sketch my day in advance. And I would always do it the night before. So by doing that, I would sketch my day in advance and I'll know what I have to do every single hour. You might think that's a bit of extreme or a bit, I don't know, very focused, but it's such a useful thing to do. And maybe this is very type A, maybe it's too type A. I don't know. I'm not going to defend myself, but I do plan every single hour of the day. In the past, that's what I've done. And it's helped a lot to make sure that I don't waste time. Because, when you just have tasks and things that you want to do, and this is something that I fall into now. For example, right now, I'm a lot lazier than I was when I was younger and not less motivated. So I want to have the free time. So I no longer plan every single hour. I just write the goals or maybe write no goals. But that was very helpful when I was very driven and very motivated. because I just didn't want to lose any time. I wanted to do so many things. I wanted to read, I wanted to go to the gym, I wanted to play the piano, I wanted to do hobbies, I wanted to do a lot of things and make the most of my potential, and that was my primary motive. So because of that, I just had to make sure that whatever hour I have, I'm using it to become my best self.
What did you do? How did you deal when the schedule didn't go as planned, when life happened? And because not always, you're not always the only person who is in control, like that, not in control, but maybe it's not that always it's only on us. So, how did you deal with those situations?
To be honest, I got really stressed. I would get really stressed.
Uh
That
huh.
was my like initial response. When I was in that period, I would definitely be getting stressed. But what you find is over time you get better and better at estimating how long things are going to take. And even if you don't match the plan to the second, to every single detail, it still acts as a framework that, or an accountability tool that, you know, you're always going to have in the back of your mind. Oh, I should be home to do this, or I wanted to be home to do that. So whenever you get distracted or things happen, or maybe there's other things that are fighting for your attention, you'd have in the back of your mind, sorry, I can't because I promised myself the day before that I'll be home doing this, or
Mm-hmm.
I'll be there doing that. It doesn't have to be home. You can be meeting this person. That's my answer. Is basically you get better at estimating, but at the same time, it's useful to have this and not to have the expectation that you have to abide by every single detail. Because most of the time, almost 60% of the time, I wouldn't be able to do everything that I planned, but I would be able to get a lot more done than
Mm-hmm.
if I didn't have this very ambitious to-do list the day before.
Yeah, I don't understand how people are, they wake up and they're like, okay, I'll see what I'm gonna do today.
I do that
I
now.
no, but when there are no specific obligations, when you are
Yeah.
in this in between space and like not
Mhm.
at school, not at work, looking for a job, being in like in your parents' house where it's you haven't
Mhm.
lived there for 5 years, like it's kind of in between, and that's good. I was like that when I finished university before starting job, neither here nor there, and you don't have it's okay not to be strict. But you did mention, I wanted to say something, you did mention making a promise to yourself, actually completing it, which is very, very important thing to do for our own, let's say, self-confidence, and also showing to ourselves that we are worth of our, because we always pay attention on other people's, what we promise to other people, and not so much on how we treat ourselves when we promise something to ourselves, like, oh, I told my boss that I'm gonna finish this project by tomorrow, I have to do it because I promised. But if you say to yourself, oh, I promise that I'm gonna whatever, like do this amount of research by tomorrow, do this workshop by tomorrow, whatever it is, like go to the gym after school or after work, and you come home and you're tired, especially now the days are
Mhm.
shorter and everything, and like, oh, okay, what's one day I can go tomorrow, and you skip and you just keep not showing up. And it took me a while to understand that keeping the promise you give to yourself, it's equally, even if maybe even more important than when keeping promise to others.
100%. And I think that's a key thing that a lot of people maybe they don't realize how important it is. Because, for example, when you are trying to achieve something, when you have a big dream, you have to put yourself first. You just
Mhm.
have to, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And if out of love or out of care, you keep sacrificing yourself for others, I mean, that's a good thing if you do it out of love and out of care. But you have to show a healthy amount of care and love to yourself.
True.
And yeah, I that's the most important thing. And when you manage to keep the promises that you set to yourself, that's how your self-confidence starts to grow and self-esteem emerges fundamentally from that.
Yeah, 100%. That's when I noticed the difference. When I started actually paying attention on promises I give to myself. Now, when I am like, oh, I don't know if I'll do this or whatever, if I'm going to be in the mood or feel like it,
Mhm.
I go back to these promises that I did keep and that I know that I can do. I'm capable of doing this thing or this task. And I have no doubt that this is going to be done.
There is a big part of productivity is getting good at creating habits for yourself. And habit formation is fundamental when it comes to self-development productivity. It's about being better, and that means changing things every now and again. So one thing that I found helps very much with productivity is being able to create a ritual a ritual for the tasks you have to do. Maybe even more important than the tools and the tech that I've used to stay productive is the rituals that I've defined for productivity. So, for example, one thing that I would always do when it's time to work, it would be, other than, there's other layers to this, but maybe I'm jumping ahead. Whenever I started working, I would make a cup of tea and I'll light up a candle and set some good music. That would always be the case. So I knew that when it kind of gets you into the state of doing something that you want to do. The same with journals. If they're separate, this journal is specifically for that thing. So I'm going to focus on doing that thing.
I 100% agree. I have to have my hair up in a ponytail or a bun. It doesn't matter. It just has to be out of my face. I like my table lamp. I don't like big lights. I like my table lamp. And especially in these, again, going back to these season, I like my candles as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like my desk to be clear. I don't like many notebooks and sticky notes there. And I do I sit down and I do have some kind of jazz in the background. And
Mm-hmm.
I love especially when there is a lot on my to do list. I love using Pomodoro because it gives me a time frame. I have 50 minutes to focus. It's not like I'm gonna sit here and I'm just gonna be here for 4 hours. If I have
Mm-hmm.
different kinds of things to finish, I love like okay, 50 minutes, and then I'll have 5 to 10 minute break. And I always remember, if you know Rob Dial, he has a podcast and he talks a lot about Pomodoro. And I always remember his advice: when you have this 5 to 10 minute break, don't use your phone, because there are studies that show that it will actually, when you go back to work after using your phone to scroll for 5 minutes, it takes your brain twice as much to actually get back to focus. So it's not like, oh, you leave your phone, you use it for 5 minutes, you leave it, now you're back to work, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's not like it takes your brain a little more time to actually focus and get in flow. So
Mm-hmm.
Pomodoro is something that I love. Before, I used to love this app called App Forest, if you know. It's also really good because it blocks to use other apps. Then if you have problems with distracting yourself with phone and notifications, it's good.
Forest is such a cute app.
Yeah.
Let's geek out a bit on that. About the study you mentioned with that interval studying where you focus for a limited period of time and take a break. I think I remember I started using Pomodoro because of this very famous talk given by, I think it was a professor or something, but it was all about a paper that was done on attention. And this presentation, or this guy, was showing that he literally had the graph, and he was showing that the more you sit at your desk and try to focus on one task, over time your focus decreases.
Mhm.
And if you try to work for 4 hours straight, by hour two, three, your brain power is going to be so low, you're not going to do anything meaningful. However, this guy was showing that if you're taking a break, and ideally the break was every 25 to 50 minutes, somewhere in between that, all depends on your focus and your individual ability to focus. But if you take a break after a while at fixed intervals, your attention kind of refreshes and you're back at it. After the break, you're back at that very high brain power and ability to focus and think and pay attention. So this way, by taking a break, you make sure that you stay at that high throughout the entire working period. So if you're working for 6 hours, you'd stay at that high focus or level of concentration for those 6 hours, provided you take 5 minute breaks every 25 minutes. But if
Yeah.
you were just trying to focus for 6 hours straight, it wouldn't, like, half of that time, 4 hours of that time would just be gone to waste. So that's what really motivated me to use it. And as I've mentioned, being someone that struggled with attention, that was crucial for me. I also had to start meditation for that. So for me, just to emphasize how bad this was, the way had to start meditating was 10 seconds. That was my first session. My first session was being able to not think or like focus on my breath for 10 goddamn seconds. And then the next one was 20, and then 30, and then a minute. Like, it was very humble, very, very humble, because I knew I could not focus. And then that over time, it wasn't something great. Like I'm telling you, it was a couple of seconds. But that decision to sit down and try to make myself be better at paying attention over time compounded. And even after a month, I would be able to focus. And that combined with the Pomodoro technique, and there's some apps out there. There's lots of apps out there. There is Pomo.io or Pomodoro.io. That's the basic one that you'd see in all the study with me's. Sometimes I would use study with me videos on YouTube that have a Pomodoro timer built in, and there are many great influencers for that. There is Karma MD. There is what is it? Study with me or Study MD. Karma MD is a medical student from King's College in London. Study MD is a medical student in the US. I don't know. Medical students have it the hardest, so probably that's why there's so many of them. I used to study with this, in quotes, study with. There are some Cambridge students that I used to look at. There were some Romanian Cambridge students that had study with me's, and at that time I was aspiring and dreaming about going to Cambridge, so I was using that as inspiration, both as inspiration and as an accountability buddy. There's a big ecosystem of study with me's that are super cute, they're super aesthetic, they have their own music, they have their own lighting, and it makes it very gamified, which is a key thing.
I was just typing on YouTube Pomodoro study with me, and actually I would just type study with me because all of them use Pomodoro techniques, so you just choose whichever you want. I was just using that like YouTube because I also liked when I could hear, people. There was one girl that I loved following. She would flip pages, when she was studying. She would use paper, so it would be, I would hear something in the background and it would feel like I was studying with someone else. And she would sometimes comment on something if there was a noise in the background, or during those 5 to 10 minutes break, she would talk a little bit, or she would be like, okay, let's go stretch, and I felt like I was with someone.
Honestly, because if you think about it, studying is difficult or focusing is difficult, particularly because you are sitting alone. If you were
Yeah,
studying with somebody is 10 times easier.
I spent
That
my university days studying with I having study buddy, and it was always so much fun.
Oh, that's nice. That's very, very nice. But yeah, those are very good tools. It's just there's so many out there and people's choice differs. If you have a particular preference, it's out there. There's people from all over the world. There's different countries, different nationalities, different genders, different aesthetics. So you can find that very easily, and it's a really fun part of the like learning process. Merve is one of them. She's this girl that does a study with me videos in Glasgow in Scotland, and there's this it's very aesthetic because she always studies by a window and you can see these gothic architecture and these buildings and these castles outside the window in Scotland, and it's so nice. My sister loves that one. But yeah, one thing that I wanted to also another app that I wanted to shout out to is Kanban Flow. It's basically like a Japanese organizational
System.
system, exactly. And there is this one website called Kanban Flow where it also integrates a Pomodoro timer in it. So what a Kanban is, it's basically a bunch of panels where you're organizing your tasks based on to be doing right now, and finished. So you'd write the things you're working on in there, and then you move tasks around as you're starting to work on them or complete them. But what I love about this is that it tracks the time you've worked on something every single Pomodoro session. So, for example, if I would be preparing for my final year exams, I remember when I was preparing for those, it counted that I studied for more than 200 hours because every
Mm.
time I would be using a Pomodoro or I would be studying, I would be using that app. So I'll select the task and then start the Pomodoro, and it would also give me the Pomodoro thing with the timer and with the sound, but it would also lock in my hours, which I found extremely gratifying during COVID times. That was super useful. I just like getting that number higher and higher, which you can
Achiever in you speaking.
very much so. Yeah, actually, okay, that's a good point. Right. So, one thing I wanted to mention when you were talking about Pomodoro and taking breaks is this thing called flow. You have briefly mentioned the word, which reminded me of this very good book that I read around the time when I started being like focusing on productivity and getting into productivity, which was Deep Work by Cal Newport. Have you read it? It's such a good book. This book focuses on the importance of deliberate practice. And what deliberate practice is, it's the way you're working, it's a philosophy of working that has the goal of getting better. You're not just working for the sake of working, you're trying to work so you can improve. But in order to work and improve, you have to be focused and have that intention. So deep work, it's basically a style of working or of studying where you're blocking out periods of time in your day to focus and get better. And that's why, for example, I would block out time in the early morning from, let's say, 8 a.m. till 2 p.m. That's when my most productive time is, to be focusing on deliberate practice. And in those 6 hours of whatever, I would be using Pomodoro to stay focused over long periods of time, but blocking out that period for my deliberate practice was such an important part of my routine. Do you find that it's also important for you to block out time when you're most productive, or do you just work whenever you can?
I did notice that I am most productive in the morning. My focus is much better. And I try to, before it was actually easier when I was teacher and I was organizing my own time completely. But even now, actually, when I'm in corporate, I love starting my day, starting my working hours by having this deep focus, especially because I start a little bit earlier than other people in the office. So I have literally quiet time to focus. And I use that almost always to the maximum, because I know one of the things that I hate is when we have some kind of meetings or trainings in the morning and then I have second part of the day to work. My
Mhm.
attention and attention span is all over the place. My willpower is like it's not there. So it's always a struggle. But yeah, I thrive in the morning and I'm aware of it. And I try to tailor my working hours and when I'm going to focus to be exactly in that part of the day.
I so
And it
relate
does
to that.
help.
I so relate to that. It's almost as if that morning time is me time. Like, I definitely feel like in the morning, I just really need time to be by myself and on my own. It's time where I pour into myself, being with the morning routine, but also focus time. It's a period of my day where I think it's one of the most enjoyable because there's a sense of peace and also focus where I'm trying to go towards my goals and achievements. And I know I have that time to keep my promises, you know. And once I've had that good chunk of work in the morning, then the rest of the day, I feel that much more accomplished. And I don't need to do anything else after that. You know, I can do my hobbies,
Yeah.
I can relax, I can watch shows, but I've had that part done.
I just wanted to connect to say it was very hard for me when I started doing corporate and keeping my classes, to keep my classes in the afternoon, because they would usually end at like 8 or 9 o'clock p.m. And I would be very tired because, first of all, it's not my, like, I don't thrive in that moment. And
Mhm.
second of all, I would have class after 8 hours of work and then I would have few classes. And so when the working hour stops, in my job, for me, it doesn't actually stop because I have to continue working. And late, even when I was just doing my classes, I always prefer scheduling them in the morning,
Mhm.
just to have them, because that was my
A lot
focus time.
easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like working out and fitness helps you regain that focus for that latter half of the day?
Oh, I cannot say no, because I don't think that there is anything that working out and fitness would not help with that could be a disadvantage of doing. Yeah, before I was this type of person working out in the morning, but now because of the job, I don't have that option. But luckily, I do finish earlier. I don't work until 5. I finish earlier. So by 5 p.m., I do, like, immediately after finishing my work in the office, I go to the gym and, what's the word, skip that part of the busyness in the gym at 5, 6, 7 p.m. So yeah, kind of like in the middle of the day, which is a good break to have, because after work, I do my thing. I either run or go for a walk with my puppy or go to the gym. And then I have second part of the day as kind of like a reset. I have second part of the day, afternoons, to do other stuff. It's kind of a good break to have.
I ask that because I mean, it's not surprising that it helps because
Mhm.
I found that myself as well, that whenever I work out before a study session or a working session, my mind is a lot clearer. And particularly, so I would use, for example, in my morning routine before I would start studying, I would have a few exercises, literally 3 exercises, not even maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes of exercising max, that I would do in the morning before I started, because it cleared up my mind and it would give me more energy and help me be more focused. And that's helped a lot. I mean, it's a tiny habit, it's just 3 minutes a day, but that's something that I've done for a long time. But the one habit where working out really helped is getting back that latter half of the day. Because I remember after school, I started doing this in high school, so it would be after school. I'll be drained, like tired. My mind would be all a fog. I was studying maths and IT and physics, so my
Hmm.
mind was fried. And you just sit down at these lectures. You get drained. You get drained after those like focused, intense sessions or after
True.
work. So immediately after doing that, I would go to the gym, and that's kind of how my maybe gym love for the gym started. Is because in the gym it was playtime. It was time to relax. It was time to let your mind, de-stress. And there's
Mhm.
nothing better than a bunch of endorphins to make you feel better and more refreshed. So I don't think I could have been as productive in my life as I end up being if I didn't have that afternoon or after work workout session, which allowed me and unlocked the evenings. There's a trend going on these days. I don't really follow it, but I've seen headlines of people trying to not waste their evenings. And if there's one way in which you can not waste your evening is and have energy to do something in the evening, is to do some sort of exercise. I mean, for fear
True.
to becoming a fitness channel by this point.
It reminds me of something I talked about last time, going to Zumba. If you remember,
Hmm.
I was going with my roommate when we were in university, first or second year, and we were going for a few months. And then when it was terms, like exam season, she stopped, but I continued going because those 3 times per week, those 3 hours per week in the evening, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, were 3 hours where I could allow myself to just dance, sweat, not care about anything, enjoy the music. It helped me actually more in my exam seasons because going back to our last episode, like fitness influences our mental health so much.
And like a big part of being productive is how you manage your energy and
Yes.
how you do self care. So, are there any self care habits or maybe morning routines that you've implemented which ensure that you stay productive throughout the day?
Not going on my phone. That was something that I've been practicing for years now, not being on my phone first thing in the morning.
First thing in the morning. Oh, is it that bad? I've started doing it now, so I don't know.
Yes, because I always like, oh, okay, this message, and let me just
Mm-hmm.
why not scroll once or twice, and it's never once or twice, and I don't want the first thing to look at is to be a screen and to look at it for I don't know half an hour in the morning and just watch, be stimulated, even though you're not like
Mm-hmm.
you don't realize that you are, but you are
Mm-hmm.
stimulated, and I don't want that for myself. As you said, mornings for me as well are so important, and I've tried this. I don't remember when I started doing this, but I never went back. There would
Mm-hmm.
be some moments, of course, in the morning, especially when I'm working in the office and I have to kind of have my phone on the go. But I do try to have at least like water, like warm water with lemon, to squeeze that like 10 minutes, just doing that and getting ready. And then, okay, on my way to work, I'll be on my phone if I have to. But yeah, I try to stay out of my phone in the morning and to have similar mornings, to be honest, to have
Mm-hmm.
similar routines in the mornings because I like structure, and I think brain also likes structure.
Yeah.
So I like my mornings to be similar. But even if, for example, my weekends mornings on a weekend are different than mornings during Monday to Friday, usually my mornings on weekends are similar to each other. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know how my Saturdays, Sundays are gonna go more often than not. So things happen, life happens, but on a regular basis, I know. So that's something that helps.
That's a great point.
Do you have some?
Well, I've definitely resonated with your need for structure. I feel like having habits is the most important part of productivity. Having a morning routine that sets you up for success, having a work routine, having afternoon routine, evening routine, like you know how to predict how close you are to your goals or how much progress you can make or you can get done a lot faster. It's a lot easier to predict that if you have these habits because you can track it. You say, okay, well, out of a week, I've done this afternoon habit or this maybe playing the piano habit 6 times. So great, I'm on the right track. But if you don't have that structure, it's harder.
Yes, you reminded me of something that I'm doing, like Spanish. Spanish is something that I've been focusing this year, and I don't have it. I have it on my habit tracker, but it's not not something that I track daily that I'm doing. What I track daily is going on a walk, my water, and vitamins, and different kinds of movements depending on a day. But Spanish is, for example, something that I'm tracking on a weekly basis, just to have a reminder that this is something that I want to focus. This is a goal that I want to have. I want to achieve certain level in Spanish, and so in order to do that, I have to, keep practicing. But I don't stress myself that I have to do it daily. But it's there in my tracker. I want to track it to know how I'm doing, because tomorrow when I'm not there, if I'm not there, I can't be mad or upset and be like, how did I not achieve this? Looking back, I didn't even try, But here I have literally written it down, and I can track, among other things, to see, okay, what are some things that I can improve this week? What is something that was lacking last week that wasn't going really well? What can I focus more on this week? So I love trackers. But I don't love to be overwhelmed. I don't like when I'm overwhelmed with things I have to check out and like to cross.
Yeah.
No, no, no. Keeping it simple.
Right. So tell me more about habit trackers. I've never been somebody that used them. I find them, like, honestly, I really wish I was the type of person that used it. But I find them overwhelming. I just never had the habit. Maybe this is something I'll implement from now on. If you can sway me.
Oh, not pressured at all now. um, I've been tracking my habits for a long time, and I think it goes back to those challenges that I would give to myself, because usually in those challenges you would tick, each day that you finish, and you would pay attention on things that you set daily for yourself, complete a challenge.
Do you track it using pen and paper or an app?
Yes, I have pen and paper. I have A4 paper, and on it I have like a small kind of calendar, basically,
Mhm.
for the next 9 weeks, which is how many weeks we have left till New Year. Now less, of course, but when I started it was 9 weeks, and I have in each one box for each day. So
Mhm.
7 boxes for 1 week, seven for second.
Mhm.
That's it. And in each box, I write down vitamins or supplements. I write down walk, water, and I think about my week, because I do this, plan this on a weekly basis. So I think about next week and how, like, what are some obligations that I will have, what are some things that I will be doing to organize my workouts. So, for example, I put Monday to go gym, upper body and cardio, Tuesday gym, lower body cardio, Wednesday running, Thursday resting day, Friday gym, upper body cardio, Saturday gym, upper lower body cardio, and Saturdays and Sundays I also have volleyball. But I don't put volleyball here because it's not a habit. I don't track it, but these physical activities are things that I want to track, that I'm doing daily, because it's so easy not to go to the gym now.
Mhm.
It's so easy after work, especially when you come back a little later and it's already dark, and it's just
Yeah.
so cozy here. I don't want to go to the gym, but I have this, and it reminds me, no, 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 I'm gonna go. Like, I have this, and this is for this period of time, for until January. Let me focus until January. Let me do this. So yeah, I keep it like, and every time I do something, I just cross it with color pen.
So I love how it's also pen and paper. Guys,
Mhm.
don't worry about things being sponsored here because we definitely can sponsored by pen and paper. That would be funny. I mean, debatable if it's good for the environment, but I find it because if you do that, you can see it. Again, it's something you can
Yeah,
see. It's not
it's on
not
my desk.
it's
It's
on
on
your
my board.
desk. That's awesome. So is this how you do your weekly, monthly reflections? You've mentioned a
Yeah,
time for reflection.
Yeah, underneath this table of 9 weeks, I have something that I'm tracking weekly is meal prepping, Spanish, reading, and to have average steps weekly, 12K. So I do track to go for a walk daily, but I don't have to go for a walk for 12,000 steps every day, of course. It's just to go at least for 20 minutes, to be out, to put an effort, to go for a walk, because it has so many benefits. But I try on average weekly to have 12,000 steps.
So you have daily trackers and weekly trackers.
Yes. In one point I did have monthly tracker, but I don't use it because monthly I only follow to have off-screen day for the whole day, not to have my phone, to have other things that I'm focusing on. I don't do that. Like for monthly, I don't do anything. But I do like to have, which is something that I've heard from Jay Shetty. I know we both like him. I heard that a few years ago he was talking about, and I was doing that religiously for almost a year. But I would
What was
write
that?
down three things, he said, as a reflection for this week. Like what went wrong, what went well this week, what can I improve for next week to be maybe closer to my goal or intentions that I can put for next week. And I would write that down, literally think about the week, what went well, what was wrong. Because this is a concept that I really like that maybe most people miss out on when we're thinking about creating goals for next year. You have to stop first and reflect on this year. If you want to improve next year, what went wrong this year? How maybe you sabotage yourself consciously or no, maybe not consciously, or maybe some habits that you didn't have or things that you didn't do. Like, what are some things that didn't help you this year to reach
Mhm.
your goals? So be knowledgeable of that, be aware of that in order to move on to new goals and new steps, like do a revision. And
Learn
so
from
this
your
was for
failure.
yes. And for the one sentence that my mentor likes to say, that success is, it's not just luck. It's like, it's a success when you can repeat it.
Mhm.
So what went well? Like if I can repeat this to have a good week next week, what was good?
Yeah, like is it reproducible?
Mhm.
I love that. I absolutely love that you take time to reflect and to look at what you can do better. And one thing that I really admire about you is that you really take time to think. You're very intentional.
Mhm.
And it's not intentional just by setting an intention. You sit down and you look. And that paying attention to your life and evaluating your life in such a fun way with like fun colored pens and tables and all that sort of stuff. It's really cute.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to ask, you also have reflections, like you also focus on reflections, maybe not in this way. You do seem like, from this period that I know you, you don't seem like someone who would just, when things happen, you would ignore. If something, like you would dissect the situation before moving on.
Ooh, what gave it away? Maybe the long audio notes that I always send you when something happens.
Short private podcasts that we have for each other.
Yeah. Yep. There's a long history. We've been preparing for this. Yeah. Well, to reflect on what you just previously said, there's one quote that I love, and it's what gets measured gets managed. Probably the philosophy behind habit tracking. If you measure it, you can manage it. But I must say, I am not the type of person that I've never used habit trackers. And I think my way of reflection and of setting intentions, it's a bit different. It's a different flavor. So let me tell you what I do. So I use journaling. Like I journal whenever something big happens or whenever I feel like I have something on my mind that I want to start happen in real life. So I would just open up my journal on Notion. I do use Notion. If there's one thing that I can use Notion for regularly is journaling, because one thing I find, and it's really nice and it's very efficient, is if I store my journals online, I can have them at the click of a button. Like year and years of logs and journals of stuff that happens in the past. And it's cool because it's like almost like reading my own book. Whereas if I had them in journals, like physical journals, they always get lost. Even, yeah.
I have them in physical, and I take special care. Like when I moved out, I told my parents, this is the box where I keep all of my journals so far. Don't lose this box. Don't throw it away. So this is the box. It's gonna stay in my room, my childhood room. It's gonna be here. It's not gonna bother you. And I know I need to know that it's there. You can throw all books. I don't care, like school books, but this is
But my
important for
books.
me.
Yeah,
Not my books.
100%. I also have a low key emotional attachment to my journals. And it's funny
Mhm.
because they're not even journals, they're the to do list journals that I had. I just keep them because it's so cool to see that I have books and books of days where I've been productive. And I flip through these things and like, oh my god, I have planned all of these days. Is
Mhm.
this my life in 2020? Is that my life in 2021? Like you can always go back and see what you've done. You have
Yeah.
proof of your life and what you've done with it. It's a cool, very satisfactory moment. Not going to lie, very
Yes.
addicting.
Yes,
Um,
truly.
but what I use Notion for is I don't have a journal for journaling. I did mention I have a journal for my meditations, and I'd say that's a bit different. That's more because I have a different meditation practice where I'm solving problems. I call it an introspection. So when I have introspections, which is a type of thinking, I sit down, I meditate, and I think about a problem. I would write down my thoughts, but that's more specific. When I just have stuff in my life, I guess I would introspect and try to define a strategy, maybe a way of tackling it. But no, I I am a very maybe go with the flow type
Mhm.
of person.
Interesting.
But not go with the flow in terms of what you mentioned, people who just wake up and they're like, what am I feeling like doing today? No, not at all. It's just that I like to keep a bit more, I don't know, maybe it's just I just never got into it. But what I do is I don't track my habits, but I track my intention. I track my intentions. I think about what I want. I constantly think about what I want to be better at, what I want to be changing, what I want to improve. And that's where journaling comes in. I would open a page and write down my feelings about the situation. Let's say I'm sad this week because I didn't keep up with this goal, or maybe I'm happy because I have achieved this thing. So I would be reflecting of my progress using that. And then that's the thing. I only plan the day before, but any big plan, any bigger intention would be in a journal. It'd be thinking about what does this goal have in my life, and it would be something that I do every now and again when I feel it's needed. So yeah, I don't have the weekly review. I don't have the time to like monthly reflections, but I do. I'm the type of person that likes to. It's very meditative and likes to reflect on their own performance, their own behavior, their own life. So naturally, it will
Yeah,
come
you
up
don't do it in a way that
through
I described, but you
journaling, through
still
meditation.
I just wanted to say you don't have tracking as I'm doing it, but you do have your own system, and it's still writing them down on the piece of paper and thinking and seeing, okay, what how can I improve? How can this get me closer to, or what can I change to get me closer to my goal? I just wanted to say that these habits that I'm doing, that I'm tracking, I never track habits just like randomly. Oh, let me track my water for no reason. I all my habits that I track throughout the year is related to the goals that I'm setting and the goals that I have set at the beginning of the year, or if I'm changing them throughout the year, it's connected to those goals. Like Spanish, it's not random. I set my goal at the beginning of the year that I want to have conversationalist level, and I achieved that when I was in Mallorca talking in Spanish the whole time.
Oh
And
my god,
now I
that's
just
so
I want to keep up, and I hopefully maybe next year will go to Spain or somewhere. I want to be able to speak Spanish. I want to practice Spanish, so it's connected to the goal that I have. It's not just
yeah.
randomly
No, but
that
it's
I'm
more
doing.
structured. It's a more structured approach
Yeah.
where you set the goal, then you set the tracking system, and I think it's pretty good. Like it's very reproducible. If there is one thing that I would like to maybe end it on or open an ending chapter, if that's okay with you,
Mm-hmm.
is so for a long time is our relationship with productivity. That's what I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have these habits, we make these trackers and these systems, and I feel like it all comes down at the end of the day to what's your relationship with your life. How do you feel about your life, and what do you want to improve, and what you want to achieve? And personally, I did say I'm more go with the flow type of person. I don't have these things. However, I'm very self-critical. Like for me, I don't
Mm-hmm.
really need to. I have this problem with being a bit self-critical, and this is a point where productivity can become toxic. Like there is a dark side, and there is some warning signs that we ought to give to people. Productivity and having this organized life, it's fantastic. It's a beautiful thing. It's something that gives you structure in your life, makes you feel more stable. It definitely helps you mentally. It definitely improves your life. You can achieve your goals. I don't think you can, like, this is honestly fundamental to achieving your goals, is having good habits, is having deliberate practice, and it's progressing. And that's why we have these reflections to think about how we progress, so that we make sure we progress. But sometimes people can get very caught up on this, and it's very stressful. And it doesn't have to be stressful, but sometimes, it can be daunting or a bit tough. In my case, I must say, probably that's why I don't track, because if I would track everything, I'll get overwhelmed and
Mm-hmm.
I'll, be very upset that I didn't match the thing that I set out.
Perfectionism.
Yeah, I'm very much. Honestly, by the end of this series, people, this is a reoccurring theme with my sports, with everything. I've always been very. I'll get interested in something and I'll get really caught up in it and become obsessed with it. And I have pushed it too much with productivity as well. I must say, it has habits pay off and being disciplined pays off. But the thing that pays off the most is enjoying the process. And
True.
yeah, and if there's one thing that I want you to take away from these tools that we shared, is that the goal of these tools is to make the process fun and enjoyable, is to gamify it. Is, when you gamify, identify something that you want to do. For example, my studying was always, I have music, I have a candle, I have a system, I'm using Pomodoro, that's super kawaii and cute. I have a study with me buddy. It's more like a game, and that makes you get hooked. It's like a child or somebody who gets really interested in tennis. It's fun. That's why you do it. So these things are fun, and they're meant to add to your life, not take away your mental health. So be very mindful of that when you go onto this journey. The goal is to have fun and have a better quality of life.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And it's so sweet when you're excited to do the work, maybe not just for the work itself, but for that whole ritual that you have, like, oh, I cannot wait now to
Mhm.
set the atmosphere.
To end it on that note, I feel like it's a very good ending question to talk a bit about our experience with overwhelm and being burnt out. And I must say, I have a very close connection and relationship with that experience, having been somebody that was very keen on their goals. For example, one of the things that I was really adamant on was becoming great at what I do and becoming really good at a particular field. And in my mind, it was reaching a particular university. And recently I managed to achieve that goal. For me, it was I really wanted to get into Cambridge. And that was something that I worked my ass off for years and years and years. Even when I had setbacks, I didn't get in the first time in undergraduate, but I got in at master's. I still kept the habits dreaming about this thing. And I think I did burn myself out because I no longer focused on the process and I focused on the end result, which I think
Have
is
you
my big mistake here. Yeah.
have you had how did you know you were in burnout? Because many people don't realize that they're in burnout.
I just stopped giving a
Mhm.
I think I think it was more psychological burnout. I do get what you're saying is people sometimes neglect the physical aspects of it, but I can be honest, the physical wasn't as bad as the psychological. Yeah, I may get tired, fair enough, I can push through. But if I psychological burnout, that's worse. So I noticed when I got into Cambridge, I no longer care as much as I used to. And it was harder to care because even caring it's kind of like a muscle. If you overexert it, at some point you would just stop caring completely.
To recognize it when it's psychological, to recognize the burnout, it's much more difficult than having physical symptoms.
Is it?
I think it is because I had physical symptoms, so I can tell you how it went for me. But with psychological, you don't physically notice, like you maybe you feel like, oh, I'm too lazy, you're sluggish, and you can just think, doesn't have to necessarily mean that you're burnt out. You can think, oh, maybe it's just like, oh, I'm just lazy or whatever it is. Oh, I just don't feel like
Yeah.
it now. And I don't know, maybe it's a little bit difficult to point it when it's psychological. At least I don't think I had experience in psychological, experiencing burnout in that way. So
Mhm.
that's why maybe I think it's much more difficult. But for physical, what happened to me a few years ago was I was working a lot, but all those things that I had on my plate were things that I was so excited about, things that I loved. Like I had different things, but all of them were something I was enthusiastic about. And I remember I was trying to use every single moment to be productive. I had, for example, 15 minutes or 10 minutes before my next lesson or next thing that I was doing. And I would think, how can I use these 10 minutes productively? How can I use them to do something? Instead of, okay, I have 10 minutes, let me chill, let me look at the
Wow.
window. Just like I was so hyper focused on doing things. And in one day, I woke up, I actually had my class, and I started not feeling very well during the lesson. It was online lesson, so I was in my room, and I started feeling my heart beating. I started feeling like I am very weak, and I stopped the lesson, and the student also noticed that I was pale, and I was like, I'm sorry, I have to go to the doctor, literally in the middle of the lesson. And
Mhm.
that was the period when it was COVID. In order to get the appointment, you first had to be checked for COVID. And I knew it wasn't COVID, even though I did have temperature, I did have fever, I did feel weak, and I had some symptoms, but I knew it wasn't because I wasn't socializing. All I was doing was working. And there was no way for me to like be around people just to catch it. But I still had to go through it just for them to confirm.
Mhm.
And during that day, while waiting for the results, they isolated me in one room, It was in dormitory room, and I was alone for the whole day, and they were giving me, and like they would knock on my door to
Mm-hmm.
give me lunch.
Yeah, they
And
thought you had COVID.
yes, that day I didn't have internet. I only had my book, and I was just reading and sleeping the full whole day in that room, and I felt rested, and I knew it wasn't COVID. It was me being
Lack of rest.
overworked. Yes. When they came at night and I was like, "Oh, good news. It's negative." I'm like, "I know." But that one day, just resting the full day, I recovered, and I took 2 more days. I was like, no, I am gonna rest a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more. And I said never again. So I physically had symptoms, and
Yeah.
it's not a joke.
No, it's not. I'm glad you shared that because it's a reality of what it means to sometimes be so excited about achieving something or be an overachiever that you start neglecting yourself and your balance.
Yeah,
And if there's one thing that maybe this whole podcast is all about is trying to achieve balance in life, in any aspect of our lives, and productivity is no exception.
true.
Right. Okay. Well, shall we end it on that note?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, this was a very, very useful podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I think we could have talked about this for an hour more. If you have any more questions, feel free to get in touch on Instagram and TikTok at Chicas Plus Equals. Also, we post every fortnight on Wednesday on Spotify and YouTube at Chicas Plus Equals Podcast. Check out the description and hope to catch up with you soon.
Enjoy your day.
Bye.
Bye.